Yo, what is going up, YouTube? Today is my long overdue Necropolis League review. I've basically been into League Start mode for the past month or so. I kept circling back on talking about Necropolis League. I just didn't have it in me for mostly reasons related to the league. Then some personal things came up, and then yeah. But before I jump into my League Start prep and really start pushing out the content for League Start, which I'm super excited about, we just got the teaser trailer like 2 days ago for the new Settlers of Kalguur League. I am gonna go over Necropolis League. I think it deserves a review, even though it wasn't super popular and had like the worst retention ever. I think we talk about it. So in this video, I'm talking about the builds that I played, what I thought about them. I didn't do anything particularly exciting in this league, so that's why there wasn't a ton of content in the video. And then thoughts about the league and some of the just like changes to the base game that came in. There are no super controversial stuff. A lot of things happened. I want to give my 2 cents on it just because everybody else did, so why not? I'll jump in and do mine, and then a little bit more update where the channel's going and things like that at the end. So basically, this video is going to be in 2 parts. My builds will come first, and then my thoughts on the league are coming later in the video. So if you want to listen to just parts of those, feel free to skip ahead and jump through. Before we jump into anything, I want to do a personal update on myself. So where has content been? Basically, I stopped playing the league probably 6 weeks into the league. Suffered a wrist injury beginning of May that I've been dealing with since. Still not 100%. So way less time in game, but I spent way more time theory crafting and just watching content. So I'm excited to have some new builds coming out for this league. Instead of last league, I kind of played as like a meta build. I'm excited to do some new stuff, share that with everybody, and then do some more streaming of just League Start stuff. League Start's my favorite part of the year, and I'm excited to jump back and doing League Start testing and things like that. As far as my risks go, I should be good to go soon, and streams will come back very soon. And I added a note for myself to remember to work on posture and exercise, take care of my hands while doing long sessions of gaming. So that's where I've been. Content is going to ramp up here though really quickly. So let's jump into builds from Necropolis League 3.24. This is every build I played this league that was at least I played for like more than a day. There are some that I started and just like scrapped. I didn't think they were very good. So let's kick it off with build I talked about the most on this channel, which was Cast on Crit Detonate Dead Inquisitor. League Starter is probably the most popular League Starter of this league. Just feels like until Detonate Dead gets a nerf, I don't see a better League Starter. I won't do it again this league just because, even if it isn't nerfed, because I ended up not actually enjoying this very much, but it was very, very strong. Here by DD being too strong. In hindsight, I should have played this as a Necromancer and just done the regular like 2-button Desecrate, Detonate Dead. Would have felt a lot better to me. The Cast on Crit really kind of ruined my day 1 experience in this of the league because I just spent way too much time in Merc Lab trying to farm out the gems. You need DD of Chain Reaction and Lantern Seal of Spraying to make this work. I think both these are getting nerfed in some way. DD just being too strong base stat wise, and then Lantern Seal of Spraying is just too strong as a trigger mechanic for every other ability in the game right now. I see both these getting nerfed somehow in the next patch. Mainly what happened with this build for me as a League Starter is I played it for really strong for about a week before switching on something else. Just didn't feel very original to me. Build was solved already before the league even started. So for me, I ended up within a build that was really, really strong, but for me it wasn't very fun. There was nothing really to solve. I was just playing a build that was already figured out. I definitely want to be more original next league and jump into something that I find more fun for myself instead of something that's just really, really strong. Second build I played was Fulcrum Ignite Chieftain. This was the same as last league. I tried to build this as a T17/Simulacrum farmer. Strong, tanky. If you've played Chieftain before, it's kind of the same thing. You just do self-ignite, walk around, everything kind of ignites and dies. The thing was a terrible bosser. Nothing's changed there. You need to use Vol Portal or Vol Breach, I guess, if you want to have a chance of killing a boss or carry your ignite in from somewhere else. Only other thing to mention here is this where I did Harvest Farming. Harvest Farming was super fun this league, actually. One of the few mechanics I think they actually got like a little bit better with the new Scarabs. Harvest Farming was super fun. That's been I'd done in a long time. And this build is super strong for it. I mean, it's an AFK strong, tanky build with a bunch of cast on stun abilities. So I just kind of stood in the middle of harvest plots. And yeah, it was super fun, actually. Poisonous Concoction of Bouncing Pathfinder was a new transfigured gem that came out. I played this on a Pathfinder, Poison, Flask stuff. It was all really good. Used the new Tides of Time belt as well, which if you haven't checked out, basically gives you more Flask effect, more Flask sustain. Pair super roll with Pathfinder, kind of like a Mage Blood at home sort of thing for Pathfinders. Ended up being really, really strong. Should have been my League Starter, honestly. Peacock of Bouncing. I think this ability is going to get changed somehow. It's really, really strong, just base ability wise as a poison ability. What happened is the The ability works in like the best way possible for single target. We kind of expect that these projectiles be sort of randomly around the boss. Instead, the projectiles just like go on top of each other if it's single target. So it's like an automatic, however many projectiles you have hit the same amount of times. It ends up being really, really, really strong for applying poison. Just at the high base number, added chaos damage. It's a very strong ability, as I'm getting at. I think Pathfinder is probably the best just because of poison proliferation, wither, flask stuff. Good clear, good single target, minimal investment. I say Peacock has inherent downsides. You have to use life flasks. You have to not have a main hand weapon. You lose sockets. But just super strong for a league starter. If this doesn't get changed at all, it's on the short list for a league starter next league. Just throwing that out there immediately. Next, I'm going to talk about Kinetic Blast, Lightning Arrow, Deadeye. I really want a Map Blaster. This is probably the character I end up playing the most. Did about half the time it's Kinetic Blast, as I really want to play Wander. I hadn't done that in a long time. Just wanted something to really go through. Moxottle's Machination, which I think I nailed on the pronunciation there, on a Wander on Deadeye, actually made this build incredibly tanky. Use Eldritch Battery. Basically, you're immune to lightning and cold damage. You just stack up fire and chaos res. And you get like a really strong build. It was really fun to play. Ended up swapping off of Kinetic Blast though, only because graveyard crafting made bows so accessible this league. Lightning Arrow is the most successful it's ever been, including last league where people were farming out of their minds. Basically, if you wanted to play an elemental bow, you could buy like a maxed out one on Trade League for like 10 divines. It was incredibly fun. I ended up playing like a Giga Mana Forged version of Lightning Arrow. We were playing like a bunch of other Mana Forged abilities that go along with Lightning Arrow. It's really, really fun. But also, talking about Lightning Arrow Deadeye for another league is just not something I wanted to do, which is why we didn't see any content from me about the build, because, yeah, you just run around cooking your bow. String Stacking Jug. Another build I played. This is what my Chieftain ended up turning into. I turned it into a Jug, String Stacking. I really wanted to play Volcanic Fissure of Snaking. It's a cool looking ability. If you haven't seen it before, basically, you hit the ground with your Volcanic Fissure, and it travels out and like an auto targets for you. It's very cool, screen-wide damage. Dual Strike of Ambidexterity would have actually been stronger. You saw that as probably the more popular version if you kept up with the league of a Chaos Stacking or Strength Stacking Replica Alberon's Warpath Juggernaut. But this is way cheaper. You use Replica Frost Breath, you used Replica Oscarm, Alberon Warpath, just accuracy, strength, strong build, but it wasn't nearly strong enough. I actually expected this to be a lot stronger. I'll talk about this in my league mechanic, but I think T17s in general ended up warping my sense of how good builds were. This build actually would have been just fine. It would have been really, really, really strong, actually, just doing D16s. Just needed probably a little bit more investment, and probably should have been Dual Strike of Ambidexterity. But you'll live, you learn. That was a fun build to play. Splitting Steel Stricture was another attempt at a T17 farmer. I think T17 farmer is not a thing that's going to be happening, just because there's too many bad mods. Like no build's perfect at T17s. But this is the most investment I put into a build, and it was fun. But it was actually slower than I liked. And Sniper's Mark nerf, I think, hurt this build more than we expected. I mean, we as a community probably expected a lot of hurt to this build. Emphasize using the Ephemeral Edge. You're building up a ton of Energy Shield as Trickster, and then play this basically as a CI version of the build. And it was super strong, super fun. I farmed Uber bosses with it, but it ended up not being super strong for T17. Like T17s are so out of whack with the game. I'll talk about that in my league review. That honestly did make every build I feel play just like a little worse than I expected them to. Cast on Crit Ice Nova Frostbolts. This was my favorite build of the league, hands down. I was using Cospri's Malice to trigger my Frostbolts, and then Ice Nova Frostbolts, cast them out all around you. Super strong, smooth, single button playstyle. It's held down Cyclone. You were good to go. Super high trigger rate, casting Ice Novas all around yourself, basically because they would just fall around the Frostbolts. Tanky, we're playing Power Charge stacking, destroyed Ubers. Like, this was such a good, strong build. But again, I think it was a build that was pretty much solved already. People have been playing Ice Nova, Cast on Crit, Occultist builds for, what, 10 leagues now? So, very strong, but it was fun. Alright, so that wraps up my builds of the league. I didn't have anything that was like a particularly strong standout, anything that was super original. If I did, I would have put it into a own video about a build. I will be doing, as I mentioned, like Peacock of Bouncing as a league starter testing, so I'll make sure to do a video about that as a league starter version. I think that's way more important than as a late game build for it. But with that being said, I want to jump into the league itself. This was an incredibly disappointing league for me. Not because I actually didn't have high hopes for the league coming into it. I'm not usually one of the people who really enjoys crafting leagues, and Graveyard was kind of the big thing about the league. So I call this missed opportunities, and then it was poorly tested. On top of that, there's just like too many mistakes for me to be super happy with the league. When I think of GG leagues, they're usually like really polished. I remember like playing like a long time, like many leagues before, we never even thought about like, oh, what's not going to work, what's buggy. The league was just good. It just worked. We worried about like server crashes, not was the league mechanic broken, like literally unplayable on day one. So let's talk about it. Graveyard crafting. Basically unusable the first week. Not because like it literally unusable, but because you had no way to target your like base. Ended up being really difficult. Not being able to target your base made just like crafting and weapons incredibly difficult. You're still able to do like rings and stuff, but like crafting a bow and then trying to get like a spine bow ends up you get like a citadel bow. You're just like, this is useless, and it's kind of a mess. Storage is too low. This is like the common complaint. I know I'm like echo chambering Necropolis now, but 64 corpse slots. You have a graveyard with 88 slots. Why is that even a thing? Let's just think about this a little bit here. Why were corpses 2 slots instead of just 1 slot in your inventory? So many like little small things like that. And then we got into I want to talk post patch after the first like week 1 patch. Graveyard got like way too powerful. It went like way too far the other way. So the problem, and this is a problem I'm going to mention like twice in this league. First with Graveyard, then with T17s. GG like way overcorrected. Just being able to like target certain items. Like if you wanted a spine bow, you craft spine bow. If you want amethyst ring, you craft amethyst ring. But like incredibly powerful. Just like it's actually kind of insane. The thing is, the only thing that kept this like kind of in check, and it really didn't, as I mentioned in my bow character, that getting a perfectly rolled bow was like incredibly cheap this league. It was still incredibly annoying to use. The UI here was pretty horrible. I don't know how they salvaged this. Like this is never going core. Corpses and map were annoying. Basically about halfway through my time playing the league, I decided I didn't want to pick up corpses anymore. But you couldn't like hide them on your map. You couldn't get rid of the mechanic, and they literally cover up loot. So if you wanted to pick up loot, you had to pick up the corpse first and the loot behind it, and the corpse took up 2 spots in my inventory, which I was playing a map blaster. I didn't have this room in my inventory. It got really annoying. And then I'll put the real question at the bottom: was this just a big scam to get stash tabs hills up? Probably not, but it worked. It worked on me, so I thought I'd put it there. The other big part of Necropolis League was Lantern All Flames. I thought it was a lot in like the first few days of the league that this was too difficult in campaign. Basically, you check your lantern at the beginning of the zone. Your mobs would get boosted by some amount, and some of them would be like way too difficult for campaign. I must have gotten really lucky my first time through the campaign, or I was playing playing a really strong, well-known build on Inquisitor with like Armor Brand Cremation. I didn't notice the difficulty, but I've been doing some league start testing recently, and I've definitely noticed that now. If you're not playing like a super strong build early, your league start can be really difficult, and I think that was a misstep. Making the campaign more difficult, especially in like Act 1 for new players, is not what I like to see in this game. I want to see the game get easier actually for new players. So that kind of was not fun. Exploits ruined the mechanic. This got like nerfed multiple times in the first 2 weeks of the league. We had the re-rolling, slamming maps, and then eventually got to a point where this just got unrewarding. I think it's on us as a community to not do exploits in the future and like take advantage of this, but obviously that's never going to happen. So what have nice been to see? So the way this mechanic worked in a campaign is if you didn't clear the map before, you didn't get the nice devoted mods. So the yellow ones that made your map better, they were like way less common going forward. Would have been nice to see this actually in the mapping part. They got rid of it, probably due to a coding problem, I guess, but basically you didn't have to run the map to get devoted mods. So would have been nice to see that mechanic go ahead forward in maps. It actually would have fixed probably all the problems with like farming for good mods, and we wouldn't have had the incredibly nerfed version of this. As for All Flames, there were just too many bad All Flames, and the really good ones were just like really good comparatively. Made the mechanic kind of weird. Again, storage I thought was a problem with All Flames. Felt like there wasn't enough room in our locker. Don't like that has happened in 2 different mechanics in the same league. I actually think this mechanic could have been really, really fun. Moving your lantern around before each map, I actually found like quite enjoyable. But it just felt like you needed to do so much to invest into it, and then it got super unrewarding after the nerfs. I'll be honest, I played this league like quite a bit. Did a ton of maps. I got 1 Divine Orb Lantern mod the entire league. I got more Divine Orb altars from either Worlds than I did from the Lantern, which I don't think is a very good percentage. So, all right, last couple of things I'm talking about is changes that were made to the base game. These are the big ones. Was the Scarab Sextant rework. Maps felt weak was the first thing I noticed. It was kind of inevitable. Basically, we went from having 8, we'll call it like 8 combined Scarab Sextant slots to having 4. Basically, everything that was a Sextant got moved to a Scarab or like modified a little bit. The maps felt really weak. I kind of put this line here, imagine this league without the Lantern, because like, how unrewarding would the maps feel if you didn't have Lantern and this was all the Scarabs you could use? You could only use 4 of them. So that was interesting. You can only really run one mechanic strongly. It's different, I think. Last league, you could run like 2 to 3 mechanics per map if you set up a good Atlas strategy with Sextants and Scarabs. You could run like 2 to 3 mechanics fully juiced. You could do multiple ways of currency. It really feels like this like limited us down to doing 1 mechanic per map. The only good thing that came from the Scarab Sextant rework, and really was from an Atlas tree rework, was that master missions are way more accessible. And then I think there's too many useless Scarabs. Like pretty much all the Scarabs that say like guaranteed chance to have like, we'll use Legion for example. Probably bad example. I'd say like Expedition for example. I'd rather try to get 100% on tree so I can save up that Scarab slot for something powerful. Just too many useless Scarabs. Ended up being like a weird system. This should get reworked. Divination Scarabs had their own problems to talk about. So, yeah, hopefully we figure this. GG does something here, make this like a little bit more convenient. More Scarabs on our map device would actually be helpful. Even if it goes up to like 6. We don't have to go back to 8 with Sextants, but like up to 6 would be pretty nice. League on the Atlas tree. This was a new feature they tried this league. I actually didn't have a problem with this. I know like it was like a real pain point with the community that the Atlas tree was on, or that the current league was on the Atlas tree, and it felt like to fully use the current league you had to invest in the Atlas tree, which is true. I think it was just really poorly executed. Like we put all of the league mechanics in the 4 separate corners of the Atlas tree. So if you actually wanted to fully invest into the league, you had to cover pretty much your entire Atlas tree of just like travel nodes to get to all the corners. It was really weird. I don't know why it was spread out like this. Every other mechanic is like on either right side or left side of the tree. You can invest in the other like right side, left side of the tree stuff. And this was just all over the place for some reason. Didn't feel really good. A bad league was a bad time to test this, I think. It probably shouldn't be on the Atlas League next tree, but next Atlas tree next league. But we'll see what GG decides to do. I think they're going to want to try to do something like this again. Necropolis is 99.99% not going core, so we won't see this. We'll get a new Atlas tree again next league. But we'll see what happens. But I think this is not the league to like decide whether this idea of putting it on the Atlas tree is good or bad. Alright. Last thing, I know this video is getting pretty long, but I want to talk about Tier 17 Maps. This is painful for me because I'm someone who plays this game a ton. Farming T16 Maps is like how I enjoy the end game usually. I can honestly say I think Tier 17 Maps is the worst addition to the base game. There's been bad leagues. This is the worst addition to the base game I've seen in a long time. I've played this game for quite a while now, and I can pretty confidently say that it was bad. So we started with, I want to remember that we started with these unmodifiable. These are the maps from the showcase when the league was being announced. They're unmodifiable. This got quickly reverted after like a week of people complaining so that you could modify them with Chaos Orbs. So here's the problem, is that we notice like item quantity, item rarity on here. These should have been difficult. Like, being unmodifiable is fine because they were difficult. If some of them were unrunnable, I kind of like understood that. So I treated these like Valdo's maps. If you didn't have a perfect character for the map, that was fine. The problem comes into like there were too many binary map mods, meaning like either you could do them or you couldn't do them. Oh, there's a 100% chance to reflect. I can't do it on my character. Players have 50% less defenses. It's almost impossible for most characters, especially if you start adding any sort of map effect to these maps. Just you couldn't do them. The chaos spamming created the super weird economy that we got. And then, like, because divines are like 100 chaos orbs in trade, that got super weird. And then difficulty of this is like out of line with the rest of the game. So they kind of wanted to make this as a stepping stone from tier 16s to uber bosses, or regular bosses to uber bosses. This was supposed to be in the middle. I can honestly say I thought uber bosses were easier than a lot of like any form of juiced like tier 17 map. Uber bosses on some of my characters felt really, really easy comparatively to tier 17s, which I don't think these are in the right spot of difficulty. These mods, again, were too bad. You had to spend like way too much chaos to try to reroll these. And then on top of that, the fragments block uber bossing. So did the right thing of like this being the stepping stone in terms of getting your fragment, but did the wrong thing in terms of difficulty. This wasn't like a middle between the current endgame uber bosses. It didn't find the right middle ground. I don't know how the system stays in its current state. This almost seems like it needs a complete rework on how it works. I would honestly be okay if they got rid of T17s and then added like uber boss fragments as a chance from T16 bosses. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the answer here is. But in its current format, especially when they added the more scarabs drop and more currency drops later on in the league to the map, that has to go. It became the only good thing to farm in the game. That's a lie. It's not the only good thing to farm, it became the most efficient thing to farm, which is just kind of ruined Trade League. We saw the pricing of items go like haywire in Trade League, so we'll see what happens next league. I'm expecting like almost a full rework of this if it stays in the game. Alright, let's wrap it up there. I'm league start testing already. This has been in progress for me for like a month of like POB, and again, wrist injury kind of left me not playing the game a ton, but doing a ton of POB and just like gathering information. So I'm gonna start doing new builds, at least for me, that we're gonna test out on stream. I'm also expecting some sort of a balance patch this league. We got a little bit of teaser in the first like Settlers of Kalguur Q life. It seems like defensive auras might be up for a nerf. You can check that out. Make sure to check out Reddit. There was on the Reddit Path of Exile, there was a good post about how determination would be getting nerfed. We'll see. New league trail has me excited. Actually, I'm not into the like boat league meme thing, but like this league just looks like fun, like a city building league of some sort, or like exploration league. Like I love expedition, kind of gives me expedition vibes. So, streams and content will wrap up for me now. So make sure to click the like, subscribe, comment down below what you thought of this Necropolis League kind of disaster, and cool. Twitch link will be down below in the description as well. And lastly, thank you for watching. If you stuck around through my injuries and lack of content, it means a ton to me. And thank you for watching this again, and I'll catch y'all next time. Bye.